It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hello, and this is Ivy Slater. Thank you for joining us today on Her Success Story. Today, I have the pleasure to interview Zoe Bogan. She is the founder and CEO of ZB Agency, which helps professional women in corporate America, along with entrepreneurs, navigate the complexities of their careers, businesses, to produce outstanding results. It's a variety of different professional challenges that Zoe and I are going to be talking about that various people face, and we all face. I mean, every day is a new day. Zoe, coming to this, prior to opening ZB Agency, was a member of corporate development of mergers and acquisitions integrated team at KPMG, a very well-known worldwide company. She was responsible for driving integration improvements for U.S. acquisitions. Her expertise includes due diligence, project management, integration planning, issue resolution, cultural assessment, financing and budgeting, stakeholder management, and relationship building. I can go on and on about Zoe, but it's always more fun to talk to Zoe herself. You can read more about Zoe in the bio below. Welcome, and thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
So tell me, what drove you to do the shift from corporate America to, truly opening your own, to opening ZB Agency, to going out on your own, putting your own stake in that ground? That's a bold and brave thing to do after many years.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was really interesting. So as you mentioned, I was with KPMG for about 13 years. And so for the last part of my career, about 4 to 5, I was with corporate development. And one thing that I really enjoyed was how we looked at companies, right? It's always fascinating because when you go through an acquisition, each company is different. And they always say every deal is different, but it actually is true, right? So you'll find the secret sauce or the black swan. And the black swan I like to call is just that nugget that's really important to the other company. And you think you know it on day one, but you really find out, 6 months later or 9 months later. So I really love the intricacies of that. One thing that I wanted to see more of is access to women in diverse companies. So I didn't see many women companies that we were assessing or buying, or diverse companies. And so that was always in the back of my mind as a person that was passionate about diversity. So fast forward, COVID comes around. They're doing kind of like some transitions. And I had the opportunity to consult full time, even outside of KPMG, with one of the companies that we purchased. And my role was getting the right.
That's great. That's a great way to start number one.
Yep. And my role was getting the platform in front of women and diverse entrepreneurs, right? So it was a
had your calling card on it. It was like a neon light, like flashing, saying, is this the time? Wow, this is the time.
Right. And then realistically, when you hear people talk about jumping and taking a deep breath, that's literally what it was. It was jumping. But in full honesty, I did have that transition in terms of when I was consulting, learned a few things, but that's how I kind of got my leap in terms of entrepreneurship.
And, when you started out, there's so much, there's so much to do in starting a business. And it's great that you you had that one client that ended up being a great transition. But then how did you start building this business model? Like, many people say, okay, I'll bring in a couple of clients. And, Zoe said, okay, I'm going to build an agency.
Right. Right. And here's what I will say. So I am new, right? And it is still a process. So to everybody listening, I do not want everybody to believe, 2 years out, it is done. I have figured out the magic sauce. I'm off and running. Not quite.
I'm going to stop you right there because I happen to agree with you. And I think the magic sauce can shift and change as our businesses evolve. I think we're in an ever moving evolution. And one of the things that I think sometimes get people stuck on is when they're looking for that perfect thing, that perfect thing, as opposed to what is the problems we're seeing right now in the business world, and how can we be a solution? And guess what? Those problems are ever shifting and growing.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
hence our businesses have the opportunities to consistently shift, grow with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would say, from my experience, one thing that I would really want entrepreneurs to really get a hold of and understand is the importance of branding. Now, I know branding is a fluffy word and it is annoying because you're like, well, how does that lead to money? It's so frustrating. Branding is so crucial because it tells you if you are mining in the proper place, if your words are resonating and it all flows. So I want to say, really give time to branding, because to your point, what I thought was my brand as a whole 2 years ago is lightly transitioning. And once you get the branding right, everything else flows. So the website flows, your language flows, the clients flows. You determine if you want to kick it up or kick it down. And you also assess who's really your client. Like before, you would think, oh yeah, my client is kind of X, Y, and Z, but now you say it's A, B, and C. And so it's really good to get a good branding person. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically coming out, you don't always have a lot of money, right? So you got to figure out, where am I going to put my time and put my money? Because every little bit matters. But find a good branding person, not just a marketing person who can write copy, but a branding person to really tell your story and hone in on that with you.
You know, I love that we're talking about this, because I cannot agree more. And sometimes, you know, people get caught up in branding as the visual.
Right.
And there's a lot of visual to it. You know, you're talking to somebody who spent 20 plus years in the printing industry working with marketing and advertising, and there's a lot of visual. But when we also talk about branding, the words, the message, you know, that's how we as business leaders talk about our companies. We talk about our clients. And sometimes, you know, when a company is new, I will say, go get your first 3 clients and do the work, make some money, and then and keep writing, keep journaling. You know, what are you learning? What are you observing? And allow things to develop, versus just sitting in a think tank and creating a bubble and saying, this is what it's going to be when we go outside it. But we don't know that yet. I love based on fact.
Right. No, I absolutely love that. And I totally agree. And I would say, even to kind of take it a step further, branding is when people stop and say your name, what do they feel? That kind of like is your brand. What do you produce? That's kind of like your brand, that I think is great.
And I love the feeling moment, because it's true. It's
true. People buy, you know, based on emotion. People buy 100% based on emotion. If they don't feel your product, you're out there. So people buy based on emotion.
So if we looked at a little bit of your vision, going forward, you know, where do you see ZB Agency at this point? You're a couple of years in, and you know, and I will always say, a business journey is about baby steps.
Right.
You know, a business journey is about baby steps. And you know what? Before I even ask this, what has surprised you so far? What has surprised you in building, in taking the stake in the ground and building an organization and agency?
You know what? The number one thing that surprised me was the importance of branding. That's why I mention it so much, because I think initially I thought it was fluffy. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fluffy. I did not necessarily give the respect or weight to branding, because branding impacts everything. It really, really does. And so I have a new respect for that. And I have a respect for people and organizations that take the time to get it right. So branding is at the core, because really what I also realized the importance of in terms of starting a business is being clear. You have to be clear on everything. And I think the initial 6 months for me, or maybe even 8 months, I wasn't that clear. And a lot of times when I speak to business owners, they're not clear either. You should be able to highlight your brand or what you do realistically in 1 sentence. if you have to tell me a paragraph again and again, you don't know it. So really get clear and hone in on what that brand, but I have a new respect for brand, and what it surprised me was the importance of branding.
So what brought that about for you? What was your transformation in seeing that as the level of importance? Because you're right, many people walk into it and say that's for, like those big companies. I'm just a small company. We're going to put up a website. I'll figure it out. When you kind of started figuring out the puzzle pieces. And I hate to say it, blow off the piece of the brand.
Right.
Into that's for companies that have 10 million, 50 million, $100 million. Those are for, the Coca-Colas, the KPMGs, that's for Ford. That's not for me. What caused your aha at that moment to start awakening there?
I attended a conference that a friend of mine puts on, Linda Clemens. She's a body language sales expert. And what she does is she has many entrepreneurs come to her conference. But the ingenious thing that she does is she has speakers, but they're targeted. So realistically, they're targeted to a specific topic. So one person discussed the importance of pitching and how to do that. And one person discussed branding. And he was great. And it just resonated. It really resonated. And I was like, wow, actually, I need you to help give me clarity. I actually need to hone in on what my brand is. And so that's how my journey with that began.
I love that. Where do you see your business going next? I mean, I know you've done work in a variety of ways. You've DEI is you're passionate about women in business. Where do you see I have so many questions for you, Zoe. I could talk to you all day. Where do you see your business going next?
No, I love it. So I think my secret sauce and where my business is trending is really, again, honing in on the entrepreneur piece for women, but with capital. But I want to take a different type of spin to it. So right now, when you look at entrepreneurs, females that have access to capital, it is 3%. By the time my organization is finished with its journey, I want to ensure that 15% of female entrepreneurs have access to capital. And I think it is possible. Well, I know it is possible with a tweak. So that is including and really engaging allies a little bit more. That is also prepping women entrepreneurs differently about what that journey looks like. And that's all teaming together to say, you know what, we are behind ensuring that the best and the brightest always are funded and always succeed. So a part of my business that I really enjoy is being impact driven. I don't want to have many conversations to kind of get to the end goal. I think that you can get what you need in 3 conversations, and I want to see that happen. So 15% women entrepreneurs getting access to capital, and I want to accomplish it because I love putting stuff out there in 5 years.
I like it. What are the actions we're going to start taking? And what can women start doing today?
Awesome.
So, very often with her success story, we talk about a lot of your story, but this is just an action-driven conversation.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what I would love is any woman listening to this, I would love them to reach out to me if they are interested in getting capital, right? I have a number of not only resources I can introduce them to, but I really want to give them an assessment in terms of how they're progressing. A lot of the times we don't hear ourselves when we are going to pitch and making an ask, right? Because we all have blind spots. So I want them to kind of reach out to me if they're interested in obtaining capital. I have a number of allies in my network to say, hey, I want to invest in diverse entrepreneurs. Where can I find them? I'm like, I can help you find them. I know women.
There's a plethora of them out there. Come.
I can help you find. Come to me so I can do that. But what I really want women to do, reach out to me if you're interested. I'll start going forward in the next couple of months, start to have some webinars. I'll have some podcasts about really what you need to hone in and do and be intentional. I want women to ensure that their books are in order. They really understand the financials in and out. If you need assistance with that, please reach out to me. But I want everybody to be action driven. I want everybody to be intentional. I want everybody to also feel that they deserve it. women typically also too, when they're doing evaluation of their company, they underbid. So if they need, I don't know, $1 million, they're asking for 500,000, ask for the million. You know, like you said, you started off our call, take a deep breath, ask for the million. You deserve it. Stand up.
As I said, I can talk to you for, we can do this podcast for a day. You know, there's so many nuggets there. Number one, knowing your numbers, knowing your finances. You know, we spoke it just a couple of minutes ago about, you know, the investment of your brand and why it's important. Every business, no matter how large or small, is going to need an investment to start. That investment might be $1,000, might be $100,000, might be the $1 million. It is going to need something. So start figuring out from day one, when you're starting with concept, where that capital is going to come from.
Right.
You know, some people it's critical. You know, listen, I started Slater Success by running my printing company for 2 years, building capital there to help me fund this.
Right.
You know, we all do things, you know. There's times I worked off a credit card, right? And those interest rates are high, but you know what? They were available to me to be able to expand in that moment.
Absolutely.
You know, and so be real, because I made the mistake, Zoe, that when I shifted businesses, I said, it's a consulting coaching company. What kind of capital will I ever need? And I had capital in I had a line of credit in my printing company, obviously. And I was like, because you're consulting, I'm not buying that kind of big kind of inventory and paper. That I don't need that kind of capital for this business. I regretted it for so much. And we all, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, we all make good and bad decisions. Don't harp on the decisions you wish you could have changed. Make the next decision that makes it right.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
You know, so I love the fact that you're bringing out, know your numbers, know your financials. And what you said, a golden nugget of women don't value themselves enough to ask for their true value. Can we talk about this a little bit?
No, absolutely. So a lot of the times I see, you know, and I've seen it in corporate America, I see it, you know, as we transition to entrepreneurship, we're always working to get it perfect. There's no perfect. Your presence, and as you come to the table, as an executive, as a leader, as an expert, is all you need. You don't necessarily need, again, pages and pages in terms of meetings and notes. You're already enough. It works how it is. So realistically, hone in on that. You deserve it, and go after what you want. Because again, we're taught that we have to work hard and then have somebody see or validate our work. And that's not really how it works. And actually, that model doesn't serve us, and it hasn't served us. So we really need to change it up.
And, you know, you're 1,000% spot on. Women, we're always striving to have it done perfect or right. And very often there's no definition of what right is, but we're striving to get it right. We're getting that perfectionism. And then we question, are we there yet? Are we there yet? It's not quite there yet. And I'll always say there was an expression that I was introduced to many, many years ago, and that was done is better than perfect.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm also specifically now weary of people in situations where they say, oh, I'm a perfectionist, because I think what is behind that is fear. You'll never pull the trigger. There'll always be a period out of place. There'll always be something you have to pull the trigger. So don't be too much of a perfectionist where you can't execute. That's extremely dangerous. And I think there's fear behind that.
I definitely agree with you. And so often that fear stops us. And I do and we're all human. I mean, we're supposed to be, you know, there is something that says it is okay to be afraid of the unknown.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because it's unknown.
Yep.
Yeah. So simple as that. I use an example sometimes when I speak of Space Mountain at Disneyland or Disney World. You know, if you ever rode Space Mountain, if you took the darkness away, it's a basic roller coaster. There's a lot of scarier roller coasters out there. But the second you go into it in the dark, that fear factor, you know, goes to number 10.
It definitely,
right? And if you lifted the building away and it was bright sunshine and you saw like you're going to go down and you're going to go around and you're whatever it is, it's like, oh, okay, I could see that. I'm more ready for it. You know, when we don't know what we're stepping into, it's fearful. And so instead of saying, okay, fear's going to stop me, what you said before is take the breath, breathe through it.
Take the breath, breathe through it.
You know, and that is so often a go-to resource, I know for me. And now, you know, and I see it in so many other leaders that I admire.
No, absolutely. And what I would also say too is what also gets you through as an entrepreneur is your network. So many entrepreneurs typically work for themselves, of course, right? And many may work from home. I always think it's a great idea to get out if you can work in a co-working space, because you need that energy. You also need to be able to bounce ideas off of different entrepreneurs, which I think is really helpful. And it's also critical to have your board of advisors. So you're just not in a silo by yourself thinking through an issue, but you kind of have support, which I think is really, really interesting. So if you are an entrepreneur, I am a firm believer in getting out there. Co-working spaces are always great. Just talk to different people, share a lot of ideas.
Let's talk about board of advisors, because there's another golden nugget.
Right.
How do you start building a board of advisors, and why is that valuable to you?
If you
That's a loaded question.
Right. And you know,
I had to
take a breath there. If you do not have the right advisors as you grow your business, you will not be as successful as you can be, right? So you really also need somebody who can say, all right, how do I sound in terms of my business? Is it resonating with my brand? You need a board of advisors to say, to your point of capital, oh, here, I can actually open some doors in terms of capital for you. You need a board of advisors who's also great with finances. You need many intricates. So every aspect that you have of your business, you should have somebody with that level of expertise. As you guide the business. It's really important, because what they will do for you is help you hone in on your blind spots. We cannot always see our blind spots. And so blind spots, depending on how big or small, can be extremely detrimental to your business. So you want to assess and hone in on that.
And I love it. I never realized I have worked, you know, when I was talking to, this goes back 20, 30 years, you know, even when I was in printing, we used to talk, you know, a group of us every quarter. Right. Other people that we had a table at Starbucks. We used to meet once a quarter, right, and sit and talk about the business, the market, whatever you are building out. What are you seeing out there? To this day, I have a small network of people that are my resources for helping me stay accountable in the growth and development of my company, Slater Success. You know, how we started the podcast, different things we do, the decisions we make. It's so important because we live, I'll always say, you know, we are great. We are that horse in the horse race, and we have our blinders on and we are running forward like there's no, you know, we're moving and grooving and grooving and moving. And the board of advisors helps us see a 360-degree outlook.
Absolutely. I agree. It's necessary for your business. Do not skate over the board of advisors. Really important. Yeah. You really want to excel. It's necessary.
And I agree with you. You cannot just stay in your home. If you're not, if you're somewhere where co-working spaces are not accessible to you or easy for you, figure something else out, meaning get in and, you know, create a group of other business owners and do some co-working on Zoom. You just, everybody opens the Zoom screen and you work together, you know. So if you have a question, you want to brainstorm, put yourself in environments, in groups, in networking groups that you bound together with community.
Absolutely. 100% agree. I'm here for it. It's necessary. And you know what? It's necessary for your creativity. The mind is really important as well. Really
absolutely. Important. And when you look at that and you put all these nuggets together that Zoe is talking about, you're talking about your brand, you're referring to your mindset, the community you're building, your creativity, your financials. Go big, go bold, know your numbers, and then ask for the number you truly need to grow and expand.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Absolutely.
So Zoe, how can our listeners learn more and connect with you?
Absolutely. So please, everybody connect with me on LinkedIn, Zoe Bogan, ZB Agency, and I want you to ask me for something. So look out for more information about my upcoming boot camps, look out for information about my webinars, and if I can be a resource to connect you with anyone, please reach out. I get joy also with helping other entrepreneurs really succeed, even if they're not a client. So I am here to help, and I am a resource, and I wish you all great growth in your business.
And I'm going to say, ladies and gentlemen, Zoe made reference of building a network. Zoe is on our podcast today because we have a mutual connection, a mutual colleague, friend that connected us. Somebody that I know for years, that she knows for years. And when I said, hey, I'm looking for, we did a strategic plan for the next round of podcast guests, this, that, and the other thing. And I spoke to her on something. And she goes, oh, you should meet Zoe. So, right. Always be working your network, being in conversations with people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I say as I close this show every week is this. Take a moment and think about, what do you take away from listening to our conversation? And then what action are you going to take from that? Feel free to put that in the show notes. We're here for you. We're here to help you document it and hold you accountable. Thank you for joining us today. If this conversation was helpful to you, share it with your network. See you next time.